Number 1. It was the middle of summer and my parents had left for the weekend to go to our house in Cape Cod. It's about a 2-hour drive away, so it's no big deal for them to leave me alone for a few days. My mom had made some pulled pork and pasta for me to heat up to eat whenever, and I had some money if I wanted to order a pizza. Things were all good. The first night, I was alone, and I stayed up till 3 in the morning playing Xbox, so I woke up really late the next day. I checked my phone when I woke up and saw it was a little past 1. I'd made plans to play some street hockey with my friends at 3, so I threw myself out of bed and stumbled into the shower. I take really long showers, so when my parents are gone, I go mental. I was in there for about 45 minutes on my phone scrolling through Reddit and Twitter and whatnot when I heard my front door open. The bathroom is directly upstairs from the back door, and the thing is pretty loud when it opens and closes. I immediately froze, since, obviously, I was supposed to be alone. I waited about 2 minutes, ears trained in trying to hear anything else. Nothing. I figured it was just the wind, or maybe my parents were home early, so I turned off the shower, wrapped the towel around myself, and slowly walked down the stairs to check it out. So the stairs to the kitchen, where the back door is, are pretty high and walled in, so it's essentially like walking down a tighter version of this, but replace the rail with a wall, so I can't see into the kitchen when I walk down. Even though my house is old as shit, and each step on those stairs makes a super loud creak, I still took my time, and trying to be as quiet as possible, I probably took 45 seconds walking down all 12 stairs. So when I got to the second to last stair, right before I could see around the corner into the kitchen, I took a deep breath to compose myself. In my mind, I knew I was being stupid. There obviously wasn't anything in the kitchen. I mean, there's no way I wouldn't have heard another noise, and there's no reason for them to still be in the kitchen, even if there were burglars or something in the house. After short of mentally chastening myself for being such a wuss, I sort of chuckled to myself for being so stupid, and just normally walked the last 2 stairs and turned the corner into the kitchen. Standing about 2 feet away from me in the middle of my kitchen is a man staring straight at me, perfectly still, with a smile across his face. Just staring at me. The thing I remember most vividly was not his face or his smile, but his arms. They weren't just at his side. He held them in the strangest, most abnormal position I've ever seen, but they were one would normally hold their arms. But he had them rotated to the point where they were almost completely reversed, as well as lifting them up a little behind himself. I don't know why I remember this so much, but it's just the most demonic position I've ever seen. Honest to God, I think I almost had a heart attack right there. Looking back, I can realize how fucking creepy this situation was, but in the moment, I just took a step towards him and punched him as hard as I could in the jaw, sort of slapping/punching him towards the ground. The second I connected, I beelined up the stairs, dropping my towel in the kitchen with my heart beating out of control. I fucking sprinted into my room and locked the door behind me. Quickly put a chair up against the doorknob like you see in TV almost. Without thinking, I immediately called 911, nearly in tears, told the operator what happened. As I sat on the floor of my room, in particular, the fetal position, staring at the door, praying that the cops would be here soon, I noticed the light coming from the gap between the door had stopped. The fucker was outside my door. He was just standing there. There's no words to describe the feeling I had. I was paralyzed with fear, watching the shadow across the door shift in tiny ways. I stayed balled up, staring at the gap, praying that the man would go away for what seemed like an hour. All the while, the 911 operator was asking, "Hello? Sir, are you there? Hello?" I didn't want to make a noise, and even if I wanted to move my arms to the phone to my mouth, I don't think I could have. Eventually the light returned to the gap, and I heard his footsteps slowly creaking the wooden floorboards as he walked down the hall. It was silent for minutes as I just sat there curled up, unable to even speak. I heard banging outside my door and the sound of 2 officers entering my house. I finally felt safe, and I opened the door to the 2 of them standing there, and I almost cried. Nowadays, my parents don't even leave me home alone anymore, thank God, and I check every lock on that house before going to bed. I still get nightmares occasionally, and my heart starts racing whenever I see someone standing still. But I'm doing alright. Even working with a sketch artist and a few lineups, the police never found who the fuck was in my house. That sends shivers down my spine every time I look outside, half expecting to see him standing there in the street, smiling under a lamppost. I have no idea what he wanted or who he was, but regardless, let's not meet. Number 2. While growing up, I often had opportunities to stay home alone when I was younger, since my mother and father were forced to travel because their parents were ill and lived in overseas. And my much older siblings wouldn't get off work until at least an hour or 2 after I finished school. I was used to being home alone and actually enjoyed it. One Saturday when I was 12, my parents had to go to a funeral for an old friend in the next city. My brother had already moved out by then, and my sister was nowhere to be found. So my parents decided to leave me home alone for the entire day, and I was so excited. Being home alone for a whole day meant I could blast music and spend as much time as I wanted on the computer. When my brother moved out, we converted his bedroom, being the last one at the end of the hallway, into an office, and my computer was in there. We still had dial-up internet at the time, so my parents added an extra phone line in the house so I would stop taking up their line. I ran into my office to use what I called my personal phone line to call my friend who lived a few streets over to see if she wanted to come and hang out. She was really upset. She told me she was having boyfriend problems and needed someone to talk to, so she'd be right over. I thought to myself, girl, talk means we need a good treat, and ran out of the office so that I could go and check out what was in the kitchen. And that's when I saw her, a pale woman dressed in all black with a black bun on her hair. Her head tilted as I ran by the corner. I couldn't really see her eyes, but for some reason I remember thinking she was smiling. I got some serious chills and felt instantly frozen, but I ignored it, thinking I was paranoid from being alone all day, and ran down the stairs. I couldn't believe my imagination was playing tricks on itself like that. I called my friend to see if she had left yet, and since no one answered the phone at her house, I figured she had. Something still didn't feel right, so I put on my jacket and I headed out to the driveway to wait for her. When she arrived, she asked me what I was doing outside. I said, something weird just happened, but I'll tell you over white hot chocolates. And we went inside, took off our coats, and drank her hot chocolate in the kitchen, while she told me about the problems she was having over her boyfriend. Since both her boyfriend and I had a webcam, and we knew he had friends over, we went into my computer room upstairs to call him and see if he and his friends wanted to web chat with us. While she was on the phone with him, I was talking to my friend on the computer and setting up my webcam. While my friend was on the phone, she turned around and looked out the door into the hallway. She told her boyfriend that she'd have to call him back. She looked at me wide-eyed and white-faced and said, "There's a woman in your hallway wearing a black dress." I got up from my computer chair and closed the door without looking into the hallway. I frantically tried to remember if I told her why I was standing outside when she got here. I then asked, "Didn't I mention that when you got here?" And she said no. I then replied, "How was her hair?" She told me it was in a bun. We both freaked out, opened the door, made sure the coast was clear, and bolted down the stairs. I called my parents and told them I was going to my friend's house, but they told me they were a few minutes away and insisted that I wasn't leaving the house. When they got home, I told them what happened, but they didn't believe me. For the next few days, I keep thinking I was seeing her, but I wasn't sure if it was my imagination because I was scared or because she was really there. Weird things happened too, like the chandelier in my bedroom would be upside down when I got home from school, or things would go missing from my room. Eventually these weird occurrences stopped, But a couple of months later, we adopted a 2-year-old cat. From the moment she was brought into our home, all the way up to today, she has 3 or 4 random corners of the house that she meows at constantly. And every once in a while, after meowing at a particular spot, she shrieks and runs away as fast as she can. One of these spots is in my bedroom, and lately, she's meowing at it every night. Okay, everyone, before I read this one out, I just want to warn you about it, as it is very fucked up, okay? So, if you get triggered easily by, like, these stories, if you read them and it just pisses you off after you read a certain one, I would suggest you not listen to this one. This will be a bit of a long one, so just bear with it, but if you get very triggered easily by this kind of stuff, I'd suggest you click off, but you've been warned. Number 3. I love being home alone. It was an opportunity to relax, work on my music in peace, play games, watch TV, etc. My family was very dysfunctional at the time. It was yelling, hitting, screaming, and crushing that came from my parents. I hated being around them, so when they told me they were going to a counseling camp to attempt to fix their marriage, I was thrilled. I was happy that they might fix things, and even happier that I would have a break from them. They would be gone for almost a whole week, so I had completely control of the house. The first 3 days were pretty standard. I invited some friends over, we played video games, and they left. On the 4th day, it was getting dark out, and I decided and my dog needed to go outside for a walk. I hadn't walked him since I was home alone, so we went on a walk to the park. It was dark out, and the street lights were on, but it was still light enough to see through the street lights. At the park, there were only a handful of kids there. In my town, the crime rate is very low, and it was pretty small, so everyone knew everyone. And I walked my dog through the park, and every one of the kids, when I noticed a man sitting on one of the park benches. I had never seen him before in my life. He was frumpy looking, had long, tangly hair, thick glasses, an unmanaged beard, and cracked lips. He was wearing a big black coat on, even though it was summer, and wore shorts with black boots. He didn't look like anything, He didn't look like anything like how you should look in public, and he looked scary, not the typical, he looks tough kind of scary, but a genuine, I don't want to know what this guy is capable of kind of scary. I know the kids on the playground pretty well, so when I walked my dog by them and I told them to go home because their parents needed them, they agreed and proceeded to walk my dog home. The next morning, I received the worst phone call in my entire life. It was the mom of one of the kids I had seen on the playground. She was crying and nervous, and had trouble speaking even. She told me that her son Brett didn't come home last night from the playground, and asked if I knew what happened. I said that I was a suspicious-looking man on the playground, and I had told all the kids to go home, but that was the last I saw of any of them. She began to cry and thanked me for the information. She called the police, and they were looking for Brett now. Our little town had a potential criminal on the loose. That night, I decided to go to the park again. Didn't bring my dog, but I did bring a little pocket knife, just in case I ran into trouble. It was the same time as last night. It was getting darker, but it wasn't completely nighttime yet. I didn't see any kids on the playground, but I did see the man for a brief second. I had just seen a glance of him before he went into the public bathroom and shut the door. I didn't know what to do. He didn't see me, but I was still scared to confront him. I decided to wait outside. I must have waited a good 10 minutes when the man came out. He saw me and stopped in place. "Hey, what are you doing here?" I asked. He pretty much told me that he was supposed to meet a friend here and that he wasn't able to make it, so he had to leave. He made every excuse in the book in order to finally leave and disappear down the street. Opened the door to the bathroom and saw something so disturbing that I threw up on sight of it. It was the body of a 9-year-old girl I knew. Her name was Sasha, She was on the ground, naked and covered in blood. The bathroom floors were stained with blood, and it was also on the walls. I looked a bit closer and cringed as I saw her teeth were knocked out, and one of her eyes had either been stabbed or completely gouged out. I couldn't tell because of all the blood, though. Large proportions of her hair had been ripped out, and her ribs appeared to be broken as well. Finally, I noticed her throat had been cut, really deep in fact. It was so severe that she wasn't too far from her head coming clean off. I ran outside and fell on my knees to throw up again, and then quickly began to think. There's no way he could have done all that in 10 minutes. I had waited outside the bathroom, and I didn't hear screaming either. She must have already been dead, and he went back in to do something else. I shook at the thought that he might have went back in there to have intercourse with the body after she was dead. I managed to get to my feet and stumbled back to the house. I was so paranoid. I was looking all over the place to see if the man was there. When I got home, I immediately called the police and told them what happened. I couldn't sleep that night, so I pretty much just sat there in the dark room thinking about what I saw. The next day, the police had told everyone in the town to look out for the man, and they had advised parents to keep their children in sight at all times. My parents wouldn't be home for a few more days, and I hated being home alone now. I was paranoid and unable to eat. I spent most of the day with my friends, playing video games. At about 6, I decided to walk home, so I didn't have to walk back in the dark. The streets weren't as busy as they were yesterday. The only people I saw were bikers and joggers, as well as the occasional teenager. I was a little over halfway home when I saw what looked to be the man across the street from me, walking parallel with me. If it was the man, he looked completely different. He had new clothes, his hair was, actually styled, his beard had been shaved off, etc. The only thing that I still recognized was his thick glasses. I wasn't sure if it was the man or not, so I just walked home quickly and locked the door behind me when I got inside. I made sure to lock every door and window in the house, and I grabbed my dad's hunting rifle from his closet and laid it on the couch where I was watching TV. I had also brought my dog into the room there where I was, and he had laid down by me. Sure, I was being a bit paranoid, but I didn't care. I sure didn't go upstairs to my room to sleep, or even try to brush my teeth. I just stayed on the couch trying to stay awake. I began to drift asleep at a little past 11. I slept for a bit, but jumped up when I heard the sound of a trash can falling over outside our house. My dog barked at it. I checked at the time and saw that it was 1 in the morning. In my house, there was a small window by my door, and when I got up, I noticed a face watching through the window. My eyes got wide, and my face disappeared from the window. I didn't have a cell phone at the time because my family didn't have much money, and neither did most families in the area, so we're just lucky to even have internet. My dad was the only one in the family with a cell phone, so I ran to our home phone and tried to call him. I dialed his number and tried to call several times, but the call kept failing. I tried to call 911 when I heard a loud bang out of my door window. I ran around to see what it was, and a huge crack in the window. I grabbed my dad's hunting rifle and walked up to the front door, and I slowly opened it and walked outside ready to shoot. I brought my dog too, but after walking around the entire house, I didn't see anyone. The only thing I saw was our trash cans knocked over. After looking at the window, I noticed that the bang on the window was from a rock that had been thrown at it. I went back inside and saw that one of the windows had been opened. I didn't know how that was possible. I had locked all of the doors and windows. I looked around the house and didn't see anyone, so I dashed for the phone and tried to call the police. I dialed 911, but the call failed. Then noticed someone had cut the phone line. I grabbed my dog and we both packed into a corner, and I raised my gun and yelled, "Go away or I'll kill you." I was having troubles even keeping the gun steady. I was angry, scared, and unsure what was going to happen next. Nobody answered. I didn't hear a noise, so I slowly crept over and flipped on the light switch. I couldn't see anyone, so I began to look all around the house, ready to shoot, and kill this sicko. For a moment, I didn't think he had even been in the house, but then I heard the faint sound of pressure being put on the floor from upstairs. I made my way up the stairs as quietly as possible and made an incredibly brief view of someone's shadow in my parents' room before it moved out of my view. I flipped the light switch on and yelled again, "I'm going to fucking kill you if you don't come out." I wish I didn't say that though, because my voice cracked a bit from fear. I let the man know I was afraid, and perhaps more afraid than he was. I took another step forward, and my dog began barking like crazy and sprinting into my parents' bathroom. I heard screaming, and I rushed in too. I turned on the bathroom light, and saw my dog biting the man's left arm. I was going to shoot, but I didn't want to hit my dog. Now, I wish I did shoot, though, because the man had a hammer in his other hand and began beating my dog over the head with it. I heard the awful whining and yelping of my dogs as he struggled to hold on. I rushed up to the man with the butt of the gun, striking the man in the face as hard as I could. He fell back, and my dog fell to the floor, whining again. In retrospect, I should have shot the man, but in the moment of heat, I was thinking, and I was angry. I hated and feared this man, and I kept hitting him over the head with the gun. He eventually dropped the hammer, and I tried to shield himself, but I kept bashing and bashing. When he stopped moving, I fell back and took a good look at what he had done. His face was covered in blood, enough blood to drown him even. His glasses were broken and shattered, and the shards of glass were stuck in his face. His nose was obviously broken, but his hair was stained with blood. I got tears in my eyes and just sat there for a moment. My dog was laying on the floor, and his head was twitching. He was covered in blood as well, and I slowly began to pet him, and I laid my head by him until he stopped moving completely a few minutes later. I sat there all night long, laying there in a pool of blood by my dog until morning. When the sun began to shine through the window, I walked to my neighbor's house and called the police. The man was in a coma due to head trauma and died 2 days later after being hospitalized. The police confirmed that it was the man who killed Sasha, and it was later found that he had killed then raped Brett as well, and left his body in a ditch next to the main road that led out of our town. Sometimes people ask me what it was like to kill someone, and I just tell them that I didn't kill anyone. I killed a monster, and this monster raped the dead bodies of children, killed people, killed my dog, and broke into my house with a hammer hoping to do the same thing to me. I don't feel bad for killing him. I feel bad for everybody who ever met him. There was a trial to see if I've wrongfully killed him, but it was dismissed fairly quickly, and since then I haven't heard any other developments on this case. What scares me, though, is that there are plenty of people in the world just like this man, and they are roaming the streets, at your parks, your schools, your neighborhoods, cities, and towns. They are everywhere, and people like this will always be around. Oh well, yeah, I have just completely lost faith in humanity now. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. That last one was a little bit hard to narrate because of the last part. That's fucked up. I can't believe that. But, yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and subscribe. See you in the next video.